Hello, hello, good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. This is Ali Ettarnichi at Ali Dose of Inspiration, and today we have a special guest on a special episode. And I'm just going to introduce my friend Anoush Khaze. I will just give a little introduction about Anoush. He is an inspirational and transformational speaker and resilience coach who specializes in working with those who want to make change, overcome obstacle and challenge, and need the support, structure, inspiration, and motivation to make that change happen. His expertise and in personal and business resilience come from facing and overcoming a combination of both personal and professional challenge and experience of nearly 4 decades in the field of finance, information design, and marketing. And no, she's a first generation immigrant with an Armenian and Russian heritage who came to the USA at the age of 16. After college, he worked in many sectors of the corporate world, spent nearly a decade working in the finance industry. And he's also spent more than 20 years developing successful business in the information design field and networking marketing after leaving the corporate. And developing multiple businesses, he wanted to do something that was more personal, that's more personally fulfilling, something that combined his strongest skills with his deepest passion. He is also an inspirational speaker and coach, and the coaching seems like the answer since so many times he had coached others in both their personal and business life and helped them become more resilient and inspired them to set and attain large goals. Please help me welcome my friend Anoush Khaze.
Hello, Ali. How are you?
I'm very good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm doing so well. If I did any better, I would need another one of myself to enjoy it.
After this introduction, tell us a little bit about you, Anoush, that I didn't mention there. And before we dive in the story of hope, resiliency, and rebirth.
Well, yes, as you mentioned, my heritage is Russian Armenian. Although I myself was born in Iran, and I lived my first 15 years of my life. I lived in Iran, and at age 16, I immigrated to the United States, and the transition was difficult. Living in the Middle East wasn't, although my family was, we weren't impoverished or anything. My father worked very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And he worked in corporate world in many facets, but being from a different background, it was a little difficult for him as well. But we were all doing okay. But again, coming to the United States was, as a teenager, trying to adjust to culture and the cultural differences was very challenging, and not just for me, for a lot of kids my age at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Growing up and trying to adjust to the differences and trying to learn, navigate my way through not just the culture itself, but the way of life was quite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you experienced a lot of that probably yourself, having moved from Morocco over here to Canada. I don't know how old you were when you did that, but adjusting to a different culture is quite challenging sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
So that is the
100%. I just realized that we were not. I put it live only on YouTube, not on Facebook. I was wondering what's going on. Then I just added to Facebook now.
yeah. So
Yes.
yeah, that's especially when you come from a mixed culture. Like myself, my mother's side is Armenian. My father's side, my grandfather was Russian.
Mm-hmm.
My father grew up in the northern parts of Iran after the rise of the Bolshevik in Russia. So it was trying to adjust, and all the cultural mixes that sometimes it benefits you, enriches your life, because you have all these different portion cultures from different sides coming into your life, and it enriches your life. But you still have to deal with a lot of pressure that comes in when you are in a different environment.
Hmm.
Raised with one cultural background, but you live in a different environment, in a different culture, and then you from there you move on. Um, so
Hmm. So I see that you move from like different culture, like is Iranian, Russian, Armenian. It's all a mixture. That's Mick. That's why you're
it,
full of knowledge, not full of wisdom. It just
I'm a fruit. I'm a salad bowl of different kind of fruits. If you want to compare it that way, it isn't different.
a cocktail of diversity.
A cocktail. They absolutely are right there. It's a lot of it. My mother's side it was Christian Armenian. My father's side was Russian, but my grandfather became a Baha'i, and then they moved into Iran, which was predominantly Islamic culture, especially in the smaller sections where they were. And
Mhm.
then you know, then from all of that, then coming to the United States, which is a mixing pot of just about everything. So
Amazing. So, did you find any challenges, Anush, like when you move in now? You moved early, like 16 years old, so probably that's you adjust so quickly. But the story of hope, resiliency, like that fit into that. Like I'm sure when I moved to Canada, I find a lot of difficulty, and I found a lot to integrate and to adapt to all that stuff. Does that any of that you feel that you went through that when you were?
well, no matter the interesting thing is that for any of us first generation immigrants, and it is sometimes difficult for a lot of people who were born in a particular country and that's where they live all their life, is getting a perspective on people who come from abroad and try to integrate. Today,
Mhm.
we find a lot of people who go into one country and they expect the country to integrate into them, which is quite frankly, it's really not the way it should work. I mean, if you're going somewhere, the old adage, when in Rome, do as Romans do, it plays into this. As for me, I grew up, although I did learn English from starting from first grade. It was my third language because when I was growing up, I was in a school that taught both uh, Farsi, Persian, language and predominantly, and then also had Armenian because it was an Armenian school in Iran. So I learned those two languages first, and English was my third language as I was growing up. And although I did learn English, I learned English with a British dialect or British accent. It was a British English. So when I came to the United States, I was kind of confused because I knew English, but I had a hard time communicating because a lot of people were using, especially when I was in Boston. I moved to Boston, and they were
Mhm.
using this Bostonian accent and Bostonian slang language, American slang, and it took me a while to try to understand it. And then it was also the cultural barriers that I was going through. I always, at the time, as I was growing up, when I was a little kid, I was a very talkative child.
Mhm.
And in our culture, as we grew up, you said that children are supposed to be heard, supposed to be seen, not heard. So we're always saying, don't talk, don't talk. Adults are talking, don't talk. So it basically over time, I learned not to say anything, not to talk, and be quiet, and that kind of created a problem as I came into the United States. All the kids were they were all talking, they were doing things, and I was like the quiet, reserved one, and it was a kind of a creative, a real barrier for me trying to integrate with other kids and
Mhm.
to socially integrate with the other kids. Especially, I came in and I was. It wasn't like it was a middle school. I was straight into high school, and sometimes high school kids can become very mean.
Oh
You know,
yeah.
it can get really mean. And I had to revert back to some of the things that I learned as a child. When I was a little kid, I wasn't a big frame kid. I was being picked on, and even in Iran, it was the same situation. I had to learn. My cousin, who happened to be a brown belt in Taekwondo, had to teach me how to protect myself, how to learn. So and how to stand up for myself. And that was the beginning stages of learning how to be resilient, how not to give into anger, how to keep a cool head, how to protect yourself if you have to, but
Mhm.
try to be resilient and not let people get into your head, because that's part of resiliency is you have to protect your mind. So that's how it was when I was growing up. I remember when I wanted to come to the United States, I had to go to get a visa. I had to sleep overnight, a couple of nights in front of the American embassy just to pick up the application for a,
Wow.
for a visa. And so I wanted to come here. I when I came here, I became a citizen after a while, so I'm an American by choice. But all of that plays in the resiliency plays into it because it's a mindset. You know, it's a matter of having the having the mindset of not letting situations and challenges get to you. You
Hmm.
know,
Love that. I love that, my friend. And it's resiliency. So resiliency starts at an early age for you, Anush. And now you are, I see you are an inspirational and transformational speaker and resilient coach. What made Anush decided to be a resilient coach for the help to help others and
well, throughout the years as I was working, I like to help people. I enjoy working with people and helping people. And even when I was in the corporate world, uh, oftentimes if a coworker or somebody that I knew was facing challenges, I tried to uplift them and give them a pep talk, if you will,
Mhm.
for lack of a better word. Because in a work environment, when you're working for another company, uh, and it is you're really not there to inspire people, because they in the corporate world they want you your head down and do your job.
Mhm.
And but a lot of times there were people who had personal challenges that would come to work, and they were you could see that they're in their face and their behavior on the phone, they're preoccupied, there's something's going on. I always enjoy giving them a pep talk. I said, don't worry about it, things will fix, things will work out, and I try to uplift their spirits.
Mhm.
And as I was doing that, I felt good about it myself, that I was helping somebody else overcome a challenge. Maybe if I could see something with friends, I would, when they would have a challenge, I could see things from a different perspective because I was not in it.
Mm.
A lot of times, what happens with people get too wrapped up into the situation that they're in. It's the old adage of saying not being able to see the trees for the forest for the trees. You know, they're so wrapped up in it, they can't see the solution. They cannot see outside the box that they're in. You know,
Mhm.
and because I could do that, I was able to help them out. I felt, this is really, I felt good. I was able to coach them out of a situation, asking them questions. So, what do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I was able to coach them out of those situations and help them become more resilient to these type of small things. These are small. Sometimes in life, the little things, if you don't deal with them, they end up becoming the bigger things.
100%.
You know?
100%.
So my ability to help them out, I realized that not only was benefiting them, but it was benefiting me. Benefiting me in the sense that I was getting enjoyment out of it. I was getting satisfaction out of it. So eventually, after years of working in the corporate world and developing businesses and in consulting and teaching and training and so on, I I decided I wanted to do something a little more satisfying, not only to myself but also be able to benefit others.
Mhm.
We all in life, we all go through challenges and difficulties and bumps in the road, and it is not unlike, if you're walking down the road and you see a ditch and you twist your ankle in there and you're limping along, you overcoming it, you're limping along, and somebody else is coming behind you. It is completely natural to turn around and say, "Hey, look out for that ditch."
Yeah,
right?
true.
And the appreciation that that person will feel when you're pointing out a pitfall, it gives you satisfaction as well because you were able to stop somebody from getting hurt, somebody helping them overcome a challenge.
100%. 100%. I see someone posted here something. Sagimitten, enjoying your podcast. There is always hope. Remember, the universe never end. Anything is possible if you can dream it and really mean it. You are better. Your better days are just ahead. Paul Cormier. Yeah,
Yeah,
100%, my friend. That's
absolutely, absolutely. There's always hope, regardless of how dark things may seem from time to time, depending on the situation. It's important not to lose sight of your goals and your dreams and have hope to accomplish it. Most people, what I found in coaching people with resilience is that they don't realize just how powerful they are. They don't realize just how much power and control really do they have in life.
mm,
And they get bogged down. It's easy to get bogged down when you lose sight of your dreams and your goals. It's easy to lose sight of your dreams and your goals if you're focusing on a problem, on little obstacles. If you keep on focusing ahead on your dreams, those problems are not as big as they seem. You know,
mhm.
it is. It can be daunting if you let those small problems overwhelm you. That's why coaching is so important because a coach can look at things from a different perspective. And I'm not talking about just resilience coaching. I'm talking coaching in general from any aspect of life. You're not going to find any athlete out there, any being a golfer or a football player or a basketball player, it doesn't matter what it is.
Mhm.
Any athlete that has accomplished anything in their life, any one of them that's worth their salt, you're not going to find one without a coach. They all have coaches. Sometimes they have multiple coaches. You know, so it's coaches. That's why it's so important to have a coach that can guide you. I have a coach. I'm a coach, but I have a coach.
Mhm.
Because sometimes there are things that when you get kind of bogged, you're doing the things that you're doing, you may lose sight of one thing, and that's where the coach comes along and say, "Oh, hey, are you paying attention to this? Because this is important." It may not seem at the moment, but it's almost like if you're flying in an airplane, they constantly course correct as they fly.
Mhm.
They fly from Los Angeles to Toronto in a general direction, but they always have to course correct because of the outside influences, the wind, and other things in a flight can affect the direction of the plane. And if they don't course correct, they're going to end up somewhere else. And just like a plane in life, we are going to be affected by outside influences. Unfortunately, not everybody in your life is going to be a positive influence. Not everybody is going to want the best for you, not because they don't like you, not because they hate you, just because that's the way they are, because of their mindset. Their mindset is not necessarily in alignment with yours. They are not heading for the same goal that you're heading for. So what they do and say is not necessarily trying to derail you, but it might just do the same.
100%. 100%. And Nosh, I really like the point when you share like coaching is some people see it as if like I have a weakness, I have something wrong with me, so I don't really want to coach. But coaching, even some coaches they have coached themselves, and some coach they have like three or four coach. And I have coaches that coach me like for speaking. I have coach that coach me speaking for other stuff. So coach it just like see stuff that you can see, as Liz Brown said once. If you are in the frame, you can see the picture.
Absolutely.
And it's totally sometimes we are wrapped up in ourselves and we just focus in and get concerned, and that's why sometimes we need a coach because they will see it from different perspective. And I like when you mentioned earlier that resilient it's something that you notice from an early age and you see it from a different perspective, and that's why it's something that you like to help people with because you see think in a different way. And when you see things from a different way, you give them a different perspective. And we say, oh, that's, I didn't see it that way. Well, that's why you have a coach, because they guide you and show you the way.
You see, the coaches in life can come. I have a perfect example for you. Coaches in life can come on all different sizes and all different shapes and ages.
Hmm.
I remember a story. This happened a long time ago, many years ago. In Boston, there is a road. It's called the Storer Drive, and people who are from back east, they will probably recognize it. The Storer Drive is a road that has been there, and they has a lot of overpasses.
Hmm.
And every time that, because of the winters, the pavement would break down, they would kind of pave over it. So one time a truck got stuck under one of these overheads. The reason that happened was because they kept on paving the road. They never adjusted the number on the top. That clearance is not what it used to be. Okay, so the truck got stuck under it, and they couldn't back it out because it was ripping the truck and so on. And everyone was trying to figure out how to get this truck out. And this little kid comes along and he says, "Why don't you just let the air out of the tires?"
Yeah. Just
Right?
it will go down a little.
It's a different perspective. The kid is looking at it and says, all these adults are looking around, they're trying to get this thing out. Just let the air out of the tire, because he had a different perspective, right?
Mhm.
They were also wrapped up into the part that was stuck under the bridge. They weren't looking at the tires. They weren't thinking about it. So sometimes you need someone to come along and look at your life and look at what you're doing. And that's where it comes, transparency and honesty comes into place when you're working with a coach. And I'm not trying to pitch coaching to people here right now, although it is important. Although it is important.
Mhm.
But it's important for you to, part of resilience is also to develop a different perspective on things. Sometimes when people mistreat you and you have to be resilient towards it, part of that is also to look at things from their point of view and see, why is it that they're saying this? Why is it that they're doing this? And that by itself is gives you ability to be resilient. Okay. Um, Sometimes people don't realize why they're doing what they're doing and how it affects other people. The things that they say. Words have power. Words can build people up, encourage people,
Mhm.
give them motivation, give them inspiration, open doors for them, and words can tear people down. And sometimes the effect of the words can last for a lifetime. And when I remember Les Brown said, one of the things that says, you may be done with your past, but your past is not done with you. Okay, and that's where, if you are resilient, you will be able to get through those things. And developing resilience is not only something that some people have a little bit more of it than others internally because of the way they just think, and
Mhm.
some people have to develop that skill. Part of resilience is how you think about things. Your mind, if you allow your mind to just run wild, it will create chaos for you. You need to control your thoughts. You need to control how you think. And that becomes all part of the mindset. And that mindset for resiliency is something you can learn. Is
Mm.
not it is something that you can learn how to think about things. Be a little bit stoic about some of the things. Look at the worst case scenario. You know what? A situation may come up and you say, oh, how if I need to get this contract, I need to get this job, I need to get this contract. If I don't get it, and everything seems so overwhelming. But if you think about it, what is the worst case scenario if you don't get it? What's the worst that can possibly happen?
Mm. I love that.
That means you can just, if the worst case scenario is that if you don't get this contract, now you don't have to worry about it anymore. You can go look at a different contract, look at a different job, look at a different opportunity. It may actually not be as bad as you think.
Mm. I love that. I really love that. Like, look at the worst case scenario. A lot of people, they just stuck in the fear, and you're just like, what, and you just keep living in that moment. And but what is the worst case scenario? And you just expect, don't expect that to happen, but just like, at the end. and that will kind of just give you that stability or even that resiliency to how like I know like resiliency, like I'm just when I think about resiliency, I think about the bouncy ball. The
Right.
bouncy ball, whenever you hit you hit it, the harder you hit it, the higher it go. That's
Right.
what comes to mind. So how people can be resilient? Like I know, like now we are living a really in a tough time with COVID-19, and there is a lot of stuff going on. Anoush, how can people like develop that skill of resiliency? I know you share this. This is about the worst case scenario, like, and you work with your client and stuff, and you've been this coaching for a while. What's some really some nuggets, some tools, some tips that you can share with the?
Well, for one thing, a lot of times what happens with people is that they operate out of fear. They
Mhm.
let fear dominate their life. Unfortunately, in this time with this pandemic and this COVID-19, a lot of people have given into fear. Look, my thinking about it is this: take all the precautions you need to take. Be sensible. Of course, when you're going into the public, you have to. If you don't have to go somewhere, well, don't go. If
Mhm.
you have to go, take the precautions that's necessary. Understand one thing: there are certain things in life you can't control. My father used to say, "Control what you can control, and if you can't control something, don't worry about it because you can't control it." When you're driving on the road, especially where you are. A lot of in LA here, we don't get snow, but where you're going, there's going to be roads that are going to be icy and they're going to be snowy. And you may go, if you go into the countryside, you may get chances of being, if you're near a mountain, there might be avalanche or whatever, right?
Mhm.
Well, if you don't need to go to the mountain when it's possibly a possibility of avalanche, well, then don't go, right? But if
Mhm.
you have to go, you have to understand that, okay, you're going to put the chains on your tires and you're going to have all the warm clothes you can have. You can have warm drinks or whatever in the car with you. And if there's an avalanche and you get stuck, you get stuck. You wait until they come and dig you out. You control what you can control, and what you can control, don't worry so much about it because you're not going to be able to control it no matter what. The same thing goes with COVID-19. Be sensible. If you don't have to go out, don't go out. But if you're going to go out, take the precautions necessary. But act in faith, not
Mm.
in fear. Most people, when they go deal with the stuff, they give into the fear. And a lot of people, what they give fear that they give into is fear of failure. I've heard so many people, a lot of times people say, "Oh, I'm a failure." Well, first of all, you can't be a failure. Failure is not a characteristic, it is not a personality trait, it is an event. And in most cases, it's an event that's already happened and it's in the past. There's nothing you can do about it. The best thing you can do is to learn from that failure, what happened, and try not to let it happen again. Okay? And
Mhm.
a fear of failure is typically because it happens because of some extraneous circumstance that happens, and you end up not being able to perform up to par. So preparing yourself ahead of time is important. Okay, most of the time in life, and I have a book that's coming out on this. It's called the Battles of the Mind, Mastering the Battles of the Mind. 95% of all the battles that you're going to have to face in life, and by battles I mean challenges, difficulties that you have to overcome,
Mhm.
are fought, won, or lost up here in the 6 inches between your ears before it even occurs, before it even happens. When you go in with the attitude of the positive attitude, when you go in with a belief, and that's also believing in yourself,
Mhm.
not quitting. Okay, believing that you're going to be able to overcome it. Have faith in yourself, believe in yourself, don't quit, persist, don't give up, trust in yourself, and persevere and work on all the opportunities that come along. Okay,
Mm.
if you're going out during the course of the day, smile. Hey, look, you woke up this morning. It beats the alternative, right?
Mhm.
wake up in the morning, like some people get up in the morning and they say, "Good Lord, it's morning," instead of saying "Good morning, Lord," right? I'm a man of faith. I don't have nothing to hide about it. But you know what? Whatever you believe, whatever faith you believe in, if you be grateful for all the opportunities that present to you every day. Have a gratitude. Believe and have faith in yourself, and then work towards your goal and dreams, whatever it may be, whether it's on a daily basis or overall throughout your life.
Mm.
If you face a challenge, don't let fear control you. Face it head on. Whatever you have to do, if you need help, get help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. You'd be surprised how many times I've been in a situation, I've called a company or whatever, say, listen, look, you know what? I really could use your help on this. I appreciate it and help me out. And these are total strangers. They never met me. They never talked to me on the phone before. They become more than willing to help. And that is the same thing in life. Any obstacle you may be facing.
100%, Anoush. I really love those that you shared, because it's all about faith. It's all about the attitude. It's all about the way you communicate, not to the word, but the way you communicate to yourself. And fear, it say to you, "What if?" But faith says, "Even if." So it's already the attitude. If you already created, when you wake up in the morning and you say it's going to be a bad day, you already sending a message to the universe saying that it's going to be a bad day. So when you start with positivity, you start with something positive, you already feel it. And the affirmation, I see some comment here from people here saying, to be resilient, you must keep all the matter in your mind and push out hurt over time. And I think you mentioned this one, Anoush. Life is all about attitude. Life is 10% what happened to you, and 90% of the way you react to it. I agree with that. And life is all about what is the way, and with the way the world live today, everyone got a better way. It only takes some precious time to understand it. And yeah, exactly, 100%. It is, life is also about perspective, like when you really see life from a different perspective and you accept. Because a lot of people denying, and when they don't accept, that's when the chaos happen inside.
Right. So here, the thing is that if you want to build resilience, you have to accept it. You have to understand that you need to change.
Mhm.
You need to change. You need to transform. We all need to change, and we are going to change whether we like it or not, because change is the only constant in the universe. Everything changes. The universe is changing. I have a cousin who's a astronomer at JPL Laboratories, and we were talking, and he said the universe is changing constantly. It's expanding. It's expanding. And then when it reaches at some point, it's going to begin to contract. So the universe is changing. In our world is changing. You look at the changes that are happening that is part of nature. A caterpillar transforms into a butterfly. It goes through a lot of struggle to become a butterfly. If you cut that cocoon to let the butterfly out, it's not going to develop its wings. It's going to die. Through that struggle and those challenges and facing those difficulties is where it gets the strength in its wings to be able to fly. So if you want to develop resilience, I can give you 6 steps that will help you do that. Okay? The first step is you need to check yourself. Okay? And it all comes from the word change. So if you take the first letter of the first letter of the change, you start with the CHANGE, and that change, we're going to go through that. First is check yourself. Evaluate yourself honestly and assess your skill set. Honestly, your transformational skill set. The skills of perseverance. I like to call it stick-to-itiveness. To be able to stick to something and finish it. Okay, to persevere, finish what you start. That's very important. To stick to it, don't give up, don't quit. Resilience in the face of failure, to keep going, to be resilient in the face of failure and keep going. If you fall, get back up. It's kind of interesting you mentioned the rubber ball, because I have a rubber ball here.
Oh, nice.
All right, I have a rubber ball right here. I use that in one of my speeches. Are you a rubber ball or a bean bag? So next one is help yourself by asking for help. You're not going to have all the answers. You need to enlist the help of maybe a transformation coach or a mentor to help you assess your abilities, to help you transform yourself. Uh, Again, why a coach or a mentor? We talked about it. Every successful person has one. Okay, because why? Because it simply works. They give you a different perspective. They help you to see things from a different way. Maybe a lot of times we have the answers to the questions in ourselves, but we just simply can't access it. Next one is you have to adjust your methodology. Most people tend to want to make massive changes in their life all at once. That's not going to work. It's too hard. And when you try to do that, more often than not, people back off. They don't follow through with it because it's a hard thing to change. Think of it this way. Would you be able to eat 110 pounds of potatoes?
No.
It's a hard no. But that's an obvious answer, right? But the average person eats about 110 pounds of potatoes a year. But they eat it a little bit at a time. They don't do it all in one sitting. All right? You put 110 pounds of potatoes in front of anybody, is going to say, "Are you crazy?" but every time they go through a McDonald's, drive-through, and they say, "Would you like to supersize that?" They say, "Sure." Right? They eat it a little bit at a time. Right? So you can, but you're not going to do it all at once. You can come up with one or two improvements that you can start with. That's going to help you become better at what you do, whether it's in your life, or improving quality of your life, or your work, right? Next one is navigate success by making a plan, right? If you don't have a plan to succeed, you're planning to fail. Plan to improve your transformational skills. Plan to improve the way you deal with different situations. Work with your coach, work with your mentor to come up with a plan that works for you specifically. There is no such thing as one plan for everyone because we're all different, right? So work and have a plan that you can use that's specific for you. Next is get to work. Plan your work your plan. Begin to practice your new skills that you learn, those resilience skills, transformation skills. Take those and put them to work. Use them a little bit at a time. You don't have to put them all to work at one time. Just do them one step at a time. And that's going to every day in your work. Maybe if you don't read a book, maybe read 15 minutes a day. Maybe if you're not listening to audios and different things that you need to listen to help with your mindset, do a little bit of that every day. Maybe add it in, just slowly add it in. Next one is enjoy your small victories. Celebrate the small successes that you have. Learn from the failures and move on. Don't dwell on the negative. Okay? If you're familiar with a game of baseball, you have the bases. In order to get to the second base, you have to get your foot off the first. Okay? You may not be able to make a home run, but if you get to the second base, celebrate that small victory in your life. And those 6 steps will help you in slowly developing resilience and over challenges, because it's a process. It's a process, just like anything else.
Love that. I love it. Those 6 steps, and it's all in the word change.
Yes.
I love how you put it. Change, and each letter have something, and each one lead to the other. It's the process. And John Maxwell said, if you give up on the process, guess what? You give up on the result.
That's right.
So the process is we have to keep going. It's a momentum. It's a step by step. You can't eat how many potatoes? 360. But you just step by step, like you put a micro goal, then you move to the macro goal, because people like get stagnant and get procrastinating when they think about the big picture, and they get stuck. That's where fear creep in and say, I can't do this, I can't do this. But when you just break it down to different steps, as Anu share, you will feel the result, you will feel the progress, and you will feel the process is moving. And this is mostly about the personal side. I know you were working in the corporate world, Anush, for a few years, and you had enough. Now you want really to live a fulfilled life where you can help people, where you can share your passion and your wisdom. In the corporate world, people, like when they said, okay, I want to especially now with everything going on, and Nush, is people losing job. People, like, they are worried about, they are not sure they are going tomorrow to work or not, if their boss tell them, okay, we don't have any work or anything like that. How can people really deal with these changes, this resilience stuff, that they can face this uncertainty in this uncertain time?
There's a lot of going on. There's a lot of that going on. But what if you are resilient, and how you develop resilience, and that is that do not put your faith in another man. First of all, you have core values, and some of us, our core values are very much integrated into our faith, in overall faith, in the supreme being. And it doesn't matter what, whether what religion you believe in, or what, where you're coming, what your background is. We all believe in something. There are some who basically have only faith in themselves, and that's fine too. But the thing is, you don't put your faith in another man. You don't put your future into hands of somebody else. You have to believe that you are the master of your life. You are the captain of your ship. All the years that I worked in the corporate world, I believed in one thing. At that time, I needed a job. I didn't need any one particular job. I needed a job. And in my own ability, I had to develop faith in my own ability that if this job ended, I would go and get another one. Right? And that all comes into skill set, in your attitude. The reason sometimes people don't get the jobs they're looking for, or be able to keep it, is because they don't have enough self-confidence, and they don't have enough faith, and they act on desperation. And other people will pick up on that. I met a young man yesterday in a parking lot of a shopping center near my house. He obviously did not have a job, but he decided to create one for himself. He had a roll of paper towel and a bottle of Windex. Every time somebody would leave their car, he would come up and say, would you like me to clean your windows for some cash? And he wouldn't stop. He would just go from one person to another. People say no, 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 and they would go on. But he kept on asking. So, with being who I am, I like to help people. I stopped by and I told him, I said, would you like me to give you a hint on how you can possibly get more clients? He said, sure, I'd love to. I said, get yourself a bucket, get yourself a squeegee, and go to the stores, because they're not going anywhere, and they need somebody to clean the windows, and more than likely they don't have enough help.
It's true.
Okay? If you charge them $5 a window, and it will take you 5 minutes to clean it, each store has at least 2 or 3 windows. You're going to be able to get a lot more business than trying to hit up people with the cars. His eyes lit up. I said, thank you. I'll do that. Okay. Now, whether he actually acts on it or not is a different story. But the thing is, he didn't have a job, but he decided to create one for himself. There are a lot of people out there today that are working in the corporate world that they are uncertain. Maybe they won't have a job, but they have talents. They have skill sets. What's holding them back is belief that they can do it on their own. Maybe if you're an accountant working for some company and you you get laid off because they don't have enough work. You can start a bookkeeping service for small companies who they don't need a full-time accountant, but they need somebody to help them out with their books. Maybe you are a programmer that been laid off. Well, God only knows there's enough room out there to create apps for different companies. They can do that. I mean, it is just a matter of perspective. Again, goes back to the same thing. If you are lost or you lost your path in a way, you can't find your path, that's when you need a coach. That's when you need a mentor. And there are a lot of people out there who have the experience, who have the knowledge, who probably can mentor some of these people, and they won't charge them anything either, because it's not something that they have to do on a daily basis. It's a matter of simple guidance, you know. And again, goes back to self-image, having belief in yourself, have faith in yourself. A lot of people out there, and this used to happen to me. People used to come to me and they give me all their problems. And I like to help people, but some people just need to dump their problems on somebody else. And that's when you have to start protecting your mind and say no. And I don't mean to be rude. I'm not saying be rude, but you have to realize this is not a garbage can for somebody else's junk. This is the valuable asset you have here. You can't let people just dump their junk in there. If they need help, sure, help them. But if you can't just let.
What advice do you have for a homeless person? They are challenged with developing hope, maintaining existence, building self-esteem, understanding their place in this world. I am a volunteer and deal with homeless people in daily basis.
I have run into a lot of people like that here in LA. We have a huge population of the homeless people, and it's really a sad and shameful situation that we're dealing with. This is a situation that should have been dealt with, but obviously we're not going to get into that one. That's a long, dragged out story. But for a homeless person, depending on what their situation is, some people are homeless and they want to get out of it, and some people, I've run into some homeless people who are perfectly comfortable where they are. They don't want to make any changes. I met a gentleman who was a veteran who has been homeless for 20 years. Now, in the U.S., there is help for veterans, and they can ask for help, and there are resources available. But sometimes the mindset changes, and they find themselves in a what I call a mind rut. They find themselves in a position where it's difficult for them to make a change. Those people, again, goes back to changing your mindset and changing your mentality. They definitely need help to do it, and that's when volunteers and people like that come into play to help identify how you can help them to change their mindset to want to make change and move forward from the position that they're in. It's not going to be an easy process. It's not going to be an overnight process. It's going to take time, and it's going to take some effort on the part of not only the person who has become homeless, but also the person who the people who are trying to help them. I would say the first thing they need to do, the homeless person needs to do, is first of all accept that their situation, although it is difficult, it is not something that's permanent. It can be changed, but they have to be willing to make the change. They have to be willing to do the work to make the change. It's not going to be an easy process. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. But the first and most important thing is to change your mindset. To start believing in yourself. That by itself takes some change of input. It is, I've been told, and I found it to be true, that in life you end up where based on what people who you listen to, things that you read, things that you watch, and people who you hang around with. There was a gentleman who he was on YouTube as well. He started he the only thing he knew how to do was to play a piano, and he was a homeless man. So whenever he had an opportunity, he would play the piano. So he decided to go to the airport, and he started playing piano at the airport. They had a piano for the public to play, and he started playing. And somebody found him and videoed him, and he ended up, now he's no longer homeless. He's got opportunities coming for him. There was another gentleman who had a really good voice, and every time he had an opportunity, he would speak to the people. And when he was asking, do you know anybody who can use a radio voice? And now he's got somebody who videoed him, and now he's doing the radio programs. So opportunities can come along, but you just have to believe that you can make the change and be willing to work towards that change. It's not going to be easy. I'm not going to sugarcoat that. Again, I say it, but it is possible. It is possible. You don't. I'm not saying to ask for it for Oh, I'm going to go from here to to give. I'm going to give it 110%. Nobody's going to give 110%. Okay. And I'm not. When I work with my clients, I never ask them to give 110%. I say, I want you to just give me 51%. Give me 51%. Give me just a little more. I want you to want it more, a little more than what you don't want. Just a little bit more, because that's going to become the catalyst. That's going to push you a little bit more, and then gradually you increase that. We're all human. We're all going to have times that we're going to be down, and we're going to be, get bogged down. But your ability to be like that rubber ball and to be bounced back up, that's the critical point. And sometimes people forget how tough they are, how much more power they have within them. They just have to reach inside, and that's when somebody that can coach them comes along. And if this gentleman is a volunteer helping with the homeless, God bless you. You are doing a phenomenal job. You're doing a great service to the world, to the humanity, to help these people find strength within them to do it. To get out of that situation. And the one advice that I have for this gentleman is, watch your own mindset. It's easy to get pulled down. It's easy to get bogged down. So work on your own mindset and make sure you have the strength to stay solid on a solid ground, solid footing.
100%, Anoush. It's all about the mindset. And they really go back to the story that you shared at the beginning. That guy who was in the parking lot, having just Kleenex in his hand or paper towel to clean the car. And when you tell him that idea, he's that guy. He is coachable, and he have option. He didn't let the other company that fire him or get rid of him. He decided to create one. So we always have to have plan B, and we have to be coachable, and we have to be open, and we change our mindset. And I like when you said also, there is a proverb, an African proverb that came to my mind. He who walk with wise man will be wise, but the companion of fools will be destroyed. It's also who we associate ourselves with, who is our environment, and who are our friend, because they will push us to the next, they will push us to be better. And with those nuggets, my friend Anoush, it's amazing. I didn't realize the time is 54th already. But it's a deep conversation. We will do it often, because it's really something that's close to both our heart. It's passion, service plus significance is helping others. And something to finish with, my friend Anoush, to this beautiful audience, to these beautiful people. Something that, and also if you want to follow Anoush or think, that's his website, anoushkhaz360.com. Anybody looking for a coach or some advice, that's his website. Something to finish with, my friend, and some few words.
Well, what I'd like to finish with is this. Above all else, you need to have faith in your own abilities that you can overcome challenges. Sometimes we don't believe in ourselves as much as some other people believe in us. And if you don't have enough belief in yourself, find someone that believes in you and borrow their faith in you for a while until you develop your own. Okay? Because that's important. You have to believe in yourself. But sometimes you have to borrow somebody else's faith in you. And that's okay. That's okay. What I like to give your audience is one thing. If they go to gift.anoushkhaze.com, there is and they just basically put their name and email, and they'll get a link, and they can download a small ebook that I have on personal self-development. They're more than welcome to download that and read it. That's going to be some positive help to someone out there. They're more than welcome to print it and share it. A gentleman who was talking about helping the homeless people, feel free to download it and give it away. Print it and give it away. That's okay. Give it to the homeless people. Let them read it. Hopefully, they'll get something positive out of it that's going to be able to help them move on beyond from where they are. And you have to have faith. And one more nugget: get excited. Life has a lot of opportunities out there, and if you just look for them.
100%. Thank you very much, Anoush. I really appreciate it, and you're so generous with this book. Like it's free, and you never know, could change your life, and share it to other people that might change your life. And as Anoush said, share it with your friend who is homeless that want to be positive. At least start from there. Read the book and change his mindset. Thank you very much, Anoush, for being here with us. Thank you for sharing your wisdom, and thank you for all this beautiful audience that's following us. And until then, have a wonderful evening. Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you.